Today we're going to look at how to create a Greenstone collection using some image files. We're going to go to the course website first at faculty FIMS UWCA Nickerson /9720D, and from here on the quick launch we're going to go to content files. What we've got here is a bunch of content, small groups of files in different formats we can work with. So the one we want here is called movies. It's a collection of movie posters in JPEG format. So I'm going to right click on the little folder icon and choose Save Link As. And it's going to save it to wherever I want. It doesn't matter where I go. I'll stick it on my desktop, for example. No, I'll put it in downloads. I'll put it in downloads, and it's going to be downloaded as movies.zip. So I'll click Save to save that. Now that's going to be my content. So before I use it, I'm going to unpack the content in there. So now that it's downloaded, I'm going to go to my downloads, and there's movies. So I'll just right click and say Extract All. And it's going to extract it to a folder called Movies here on my downloaded directory. So I'll click Extract. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to put this away, and I don't need this either. I'm going to run Greenstone. So Start, Programs, Greenstone 2.85, and I'll run the Greenstone Librarian interface. This is the Java window. I don't need it. I'm going to minimize it to put it away. Now the Greenstone runs, and in a moment the librarian interface will appear. Now, still giving the warning about the PDF extensions not installed. We'll do that later. So I'll click OK for now. And here we are, Greenstone Librarian Interface. I'll blow it up a bit, so it's handy to have something large while you're working with it. Now, what do we want to do? First thing we want to do is create a new collection. So we're going to do File, New. And it's going to ask us about this collection. So we're going to have to give it a title. So I'm going to call it Movies. Sounds reasonable. And a short description of the content. What I type in here is going to end up on the home page of our collection describing what it is. So this is a movie collection designed for film buffs to help them in selecting a movie for movie night. Now I can add HTML tags in here as well. So for example, if I want to put an H1 in and call it movie collection /H1. That's difficult to work. I could also tag this as a paragraph, for example. For movie nights. Now, I'm just going to put a carriage return. It's not going to show up in the web because HTML ignores carriage returns and things like that. I'll put a /p to end that. Obviously, it's fairly difficult to enter a lot of information in this box here because it's small. You can make it bigger and a bit more. Stuff can go in. Later on, we'll show you a better way of formatting and adding information to your home page. But that's good enough for now. The collection is going to be based on New, which is a default look in Greenstone. So I'm going to click OK, and it'll create the blank collection. So you have to have a blank collection before you can really do anything. As you notice, these buttons are all grayed out because we don't have a collection that we're working with. Excuse me. Now the collection's created, our first task is to put something in. So the Gather tab here is used to import digital files to your collection. Over here in the Workspace window, these things can be clicked, the little levers can be clicked to expand. This shows us what's on our machine. Now, for example, various drives. My stuff's on drive C because I put it in the download folder. I guess I could go to C, or I could probably, I'll go to C Documents. I think it's in, if I remember, Windows. No, I don't remember Windows. How about Home folder? home folder downloads. And downloads is all the stuff I've downloaded, and it was downloaded to a movies folder, and in there we see there's a bunch of images. So what I'm going to do is select all these. I could drag them one at a time, but by holding down the Shift key and clicking, the Shift click will actually bring them all in. So now that I've got them all selected, I'm going to left click on my mouse and just drag them all into the collection window, and here they come. So this imports them into the Greenstone. Now the original files will not be changed in any way, so the original files are always available to you in Greenstone. Now that we've got them in there, what are we going to do? Well, first let's take a look at what happens if we don't do anything. So I'm going to create and build. This is actually going to process the ones. See, they're all imported. It's processing them. This is your build log, by the way. It shows you what's going on. It's going to extract metadata from them. So it can automatically extract whatever metadata, cataloging data, accompanies the digital files. This can be some things of use, some things of not of use. We'll see what happens. Usually you'll find the extracted metadata is not that good, particularly if you've downloaded things off the internet. Okay, now you notice it's processing with a program called Image Plug. Greenstone uses plugins, small programs, to process various types of documents. And they're all done. It's built any indexes it can, and away it goes. So this works for just about any file type you can bring in. Now how good is it though? Let's click on Preview and take a look. It loads it into our web browser. We see the default Greenstone presentation. The banner is just the title of the collection with a green thing behind it. There's this silly sidebar graphic and a bunch of green stuff which we can change at some point in the future. Here's the H1 we put in, and here's the little description that we added. This here is generated automatically. We can show you later how to change all that. And there's a search. Now one thing about this, search for text. There's a full text search engine. If we search for anything, I'll search for the word the, will anything come up? No. Why? Image files don't have any text, so we probably want to get rid of the full text search engine. By default, 2 indexes are created. In addition to the full text search engine, you get a browse index of titles. So it shows you there's all our images, and it has extracted some metadata in showing it. This is the title is extracted from the file and the file name. There's also a file name index. I'm not sure which is pretty well the same as this. This is usually, well, this is always useless. We'll show you how to delete that index as well. Now, excuse me. One thing about the title index here, you notice there's not a lot of metadata being displayed. We have a little cover image, which is nice, it's useful. What happens? And we notice it's hyperlinked. We can click on the cover image and we get a bigger cover image along with nothing. That's not all that handy. We'll change that later. We also get a little hyperlink over here to something that looks like a document. In fact, it is a document. It's the extracted text from the digital file. Wait a minute, didn't I just say that images don't have any text? They don't. So what happens? We click on it, there is no text. And this is why your full text search engine doesn't return any results for anything you'll put in, because JPEG images, along with movie files, MP3 files, don't have any text. So we'll have to fix that. Okay, so by default, everything works. It just doesn't work particularly well. How do we change that? Back to the Greenstone Librarian interface. We can see there's a number of things that we can do. So the first step was to gather your content. Fine, what's next? Next step is maybe the extracted metadata wasn't that good. And if we haul this down here, we can see there's 2 metadata sets here. EX is extracted. So what did it extract? Well, it knows the size of the image, and it knows how many bits are in it, and it knows how big the file was and what type it is, and a few things like that. And it knows the title, the file name, stuff like that. So this is what's called automatically extracted. Useful? Somewhat, but it's not going to tell us a lot about that particular movie. So if we want someone to be able to choose a movie for a movie night, we're going to need to do manual cataloging. So if we wanted to catalog A Beautiful Mind, we can put a title in. So, whoops. So this here is the metadata that you can add. And this is DC stands for Dublin Core. We're going to cover the Dublin Core metadata set a little bit later. This is simple Dublin Core here with 15 elements. There is an enhanced Dublin Core with more elements in it, and you can actually, in fact, add your own elements to this. So this is the design of the database that can be used to create indexes. So right now we don't have anything going on. So we would have to catalog these things. Now where are we going to find out about them? Well, let's go back to our web browser, and maybe we want to add a go to where? How about the Internet Movie Database? So if we go there and search A Beautiful Mind, we could probably come up with some cataloging information on it. There it is, 2001, and we have a whole bunch of information. So it came out in 2001. So let's go back to our Greenstone. Maybe we want to put in the date, 2001, right? And you notice there's other things. What about a subject? What is the subject of this movie? Well, I don't remember, but let's find out. What's it about? Oh, look. And we could copy this out. Here's a little copy. Let's go back to Greenstone, and let's put that maybe in the description. So here's a little abstract of the movie. So you notice I can paste stuff in here. Now these Dublin Core database things can take all sorts of stuff. We can actually use metadata in there. We can put in hyperlinks, so we can put in code. So for example, if we wanted to hyperlink to this, let's copy the hyperlink and go back to here, and let's put it in DC source, for example. Let's say there's a hyperlink to it. So that can be hyperlinked. So in our index, we could actually put this hyperlink. So someone could click on it and go to the Internet Movie Database. So we could add stuff to this, but this is fine. Oops, I noticed there's a typo in there. A brilliant, but ace. No, actually that's fine. It's all right. So that's good. So let's go off to, we'll do two of them. Actually, now let's do one. We could catalog all this, doing more. I'll leave that to you. We should catalog all of these. So one of the things you have to decide is what metadata elements you're going to use and what's going to go in there. We could probably put the publisher in and the creator and all that stuff, but I'll leave this for now. Okay, so we've added some metadata. The next thing we probably want to do is look at design. Design means things like indexes. You notice we have a full text search index, but it's never going to work because there's no text from our content file. So let's get rid of that. So I'm going to select the full text engine, go down here and remove it. Now, do we need a search engine for the file names? No, we don't. Let's remove that. Do we need a search engine to search titles? Possibly. Someone might look for titles involving the word, I don't know what, mind. Probably we'll leave that as there. I'll leave that one there. So we can take it out, and because we have a browsable index by title, but maybe we'll leave a search engine for there. So what browsable indexes do we have? We look over here in this. So they're called classifiers in Greenstone terminology. So these are the browse indexes. We see there's one for file names. Let's remove that. That should always be removed. It has no value. We have one of title. You notice it's a index type called list, right? And one of the things is it says, okay, give us a list, partition type, approximate size. Maybe we want to change some of the way it looks. So I'm going to click on configure. This gives us a bunch of options for any index. So one of the things here is what metadata is going to use. You notice it's going to use DC title if it exists. If it's not there, it's going to use any extracted title. That's fine, because we only cataloged one, so we only have one DC title. So if you mouse over any of these, explain what they are. Now this one, this will split your index up into groups, say A to D, E to F, whatever stuff like that. If you want that, fine. If you don't want it, you can change this to None. So don't want any partitions split up into group. You can do all the things here. Most of the stuff you don't really need to. Now down here, button name. What's button name? It is the label for your index. So I'm going to change that to something like browse titles. This may be more meaningful to your users. Well, then again, just having titles may be meaningful to them. So most labels are 1 word, 2 words, 3 words max. Okay, let's say OK. Now because we've made changes to it, we're going to have to rebuild. So I'm going to go back, create. Any changes to indexes require you to rebuild your collection. All right, there we go. So it's going to now go through, re-import the files, apply any changed metadata, create any indexes that need to be created, remove those that need to be removed. And the fewer indexes you have, the faster the build will go. You know, so one of the parts of the builds, it creates the thumbnails automatically. Excuse me. Okay, almost done. Okay, build is done. Let's take it. Now we could take a look at the preview. We'll see that it's slightly different. Now one of the things by doing preview, you notice in most browsers you're going to have tabs. So I can see what I had before and I can see the new one. Well, this is useful. So we notice our search engine only has the one thing. Now you can only search in titles. So if I search the word A, there we are. A Beautiful Mind shows up. Okay. So our search is working. You notice there's only one other index. It now has a different name called Browse Titles. And it'll show all the titles here. Now, we've changed our indexes and we've added metadata. But where is the metadata? We haven't changed the format of this index to display different metadata. So there's a few things we probably want to do. Put a bit more metadata here, such as the abstract of the movie, when it came out, maybe who's in it, stuff like that. And we probably also want to get rid of this thing here. So let's do that. How do we do that? Let's go back to here. Now, so design is where you work on the indexes and things. Format is where you format your collection, the presentation, what's it going to look like. And there's a number of areas of format. You notice here it's loaded in our description, so we now have a bit more room to add to that. Would be a good idea. We can add some banners here. We don't have a banner yet, but we'll need one later. We'll do that. That's something we need to do. We also have information about who does this. We can format the search. I'm not going to do that now. We can do format, all sorts of stuff here. Let's go to format features. This shows you a whole pile of things you can format. We can format how the search is, whether there's document buttons. We can format the actual document level, or we could format some lists. And what lists do we have? What are lists? These are the indexes. So for example, if we've created an index, it will show up down here. Right now we only actually have one index. So I'm going to choose that index. You see here in the all features, CL1, classifier 1. This is our first index. It's a simple list index, A to Z, list titles. So that's appropriate. Okay. So I've clicked on it. There, I've selected that. Now I want to change the default format here. So I'm going to click on Add Format. Now I'm not going to do much to this. For example, what does this consist of? So you notice it's an HTML. It's actually an HTML table. It's a table of rows and columns. So what is in the first column? First column has a link to an icon. What is that icon it's linking to? It's this. The first column has a link here to an icon that goes to the document. But there is no document because there's no text. So we may decide to remove this. So if I'm going to remove that, what's going to happen? Now because this is HTML, I can go back to my web page and refresh it. What do we see? That column's gone. So now we only got two columns. We have our thumbnail and we have an index here. So let's go back to there and work on the second column. The second column down here displays what? It displays the title and it displays the file name. So I'm going to change that. Now what did we use? We had created a thing called DC description. So instead of EX source, which is the extracted file name, I'm going to put in DC description. So if DC description exists, it's going to display DC. Well, we actually had date too. Let's put in DC date first. DC date. Because we only have dates for one. Okay, so I'll put the date in. And what would that look like? If we go back and refresh, we'll see this one. So only this one gets the date. Why? Because that's the only one we've cataloged. We didn't catalog any of these other ones. We could do the same thing adding DC description here, and we'd see that description we've added. Okay, so we've got DC description in here. Let's go back and refresh. And we'll see, there it is. There's our DC description. So we can change what goes in here in these indexes so that the user gets a bit more information. And we'd also want to add our location code as well as the date and stuff like that. So we need to have enough metadata here so the user knows this is the movie they want. So putting the URL in, which we've kept in DC source, will allow them to click on it to get full information. Later on we'll see how to do neater things, such as changing this to the hyperlink. So if someone sees the thumbnail and they want to go off, maybe to Internet Movie Database, it could take them there. Or we could have them click here and put a lot more information here. So we can have this, maybe an embedded movie trailer, information about it. So there's lots that we can do with just simple images to make a fairly useful collection. In fact, a lot of the ones on the website, the example collections up there, use JPEGs as images, but enhance them to provide lots of other useful information. So when I'm done, I'm going to close this off, close it off, go away our browser, and there it is. We can file. I can delete this collection if I don't want to work it on anymore, or I can just exit and the collection is saved automatically.